Getting back to the Pleiadians and Syrians, they appear to you, but is there a difference in quality between these extraterrestrial beings?
Every 3D, 4D reality has its own agenda, okay? When we go into the soul level, it is all pure, blissful, and in the highest and best interest of the soul and expansion of it. The physical have their own agenda. The spiritual have their agenda as well for us to enlighten. So the faster we raise our vibration, the faster they will appear. Because how can we see something that is not part of our vibration? The only way we can see it is when we're matching that or we're aligned with that.
So what is the agenda of like a Pleiadian 3D reality or a Syrian or a human for that matter? I mean, what?
Well, it's all for the evolution. Right now, our focus is to raise the vibration or the consciousness or become conscious of beyond our physical reality. And that's what we're stepping as a collective consciousness in this world. So as we come to that, then they can appear themselves or show themselves to us. Till then, we're still going through this transformational process. And the next 30 to 70 years, this world is going to go through a tremendous transformation.
It's going to have what you went through? And that, is it
I believe so. I work with children and adults. With adults, I have to explain things. With children, it's few seconds, they have downloaded it and they're there, they experienced it, they lived it, they integrated it, whatever you want to call it, they're done.
Amazing.
And they're off to their joyful self. Working with kids, it is so much easier. You just sit and you just emanate that light and they just absorb and they're done. With adults, sit there for a couple of hours and you explain to them, you chew it up, and then you allow them to experience it because they have to let go of their beliefs and their own perception of what they were taught from childhood, which is okay. And they're also helping the next generation of children to come to that realization instantaneously.
But what are I appreciate that. Thank you. But what are the Pleiadians getting out of it? What are the Syrians getting out of it? Why are they doing this for their...
They're also expanding in their consciousness because we are still sharing one universal soul. Okay, so the universe is a soul itself. As we rise up, they rise up even higher. So it's basically, in the physical reality, we can say it's rise up, but we're basically merging into oneness with them.
But is their agenda different? I mean, how are they different than us? What's the distinctions within the races and the species for that matter?
So that already has to do with you speaking about the 3D reality that they're existing in. It has to do with the vibration of their planet, and that's what creates their existence. Our vibration creates our existence here, of how we look and our outside experience.
But basically on a soul level, they're the same as us.
On the soul level, it is your soul being shared with that, part of one. So physically, we're trying to segregate things and kind of put it into shells because that's what our physical mind wants to do. But the most easiest way is just going within and you will be that you have questions for. Because a lot of times people have all these questions. And the most easiest way is actually allowing them to experience it.
So your work here is to wake people up. You're like a messenger in a sense?
Well, I'm just holding the space to allow every single person to experience what they truly are. Just allowing them to align themselves with their source. And every single person can do what I do. If one person in this world has achieved something, every single one of us can do it. It's just a matter of inner knowing, not just believing, but knowing that is that. And when we know that deeply within, then you can jump to any reality that you choose to experience in this life.
So the Syrians, the Pleiadians are evolving as we are evolving.
Correct.
What about the grays, the little gray beings? Have you met these other ET beings?
Well, yeah, I like to keep the focus on the positivity. So each one has their own agenda. So if you focus how consciousness works, if you focus on what you're afraid of, then it's what you will be experiencing.
But let's say we're not in fear of the grays. Let's say that the grays actually are another aspect of us. Correct. And they need something that we have. Like, this is my theory, there are genetics in order to help them evolve into the more of the God consciousness. This is why I say. So I'm not talking about them in terms of fear. What's your interpretation of
So
it?
there are many gray species.
Okay.
Okay. They're doing the divine work, you can say. And what I mean by that, take a look at our civilization. We're cloning people right now. We're cloning animals. We're trying to go into space and create other life there while we still have life here to take care of, right? They're doing the same thing. They're using our DNA, okay, to create more life for different planets. At one point, this planet was an experimental zone as well. There were other beings that were living here amongst us, okay? Somehow down the line, time has shifted and we have become isolated so we can experience our full selves, the full potential of what the soul contract, you can say, wanted to experience as a collective.
Right. But if we go back to this idea of fear, not to dwell on it, but to overcome it, because that's why people don't even like to talk about extraterrestrials, because there's this idea of fear. What is the fear? What is it how do we go beyond the fear and make peace with all the beings out there that...
So if you're connecting to that aspect that is afraid, it is because that aspect is within you. Okay? So as you do healing within yourself and you shift your vibration, we not only heal ourselves, but we can also heal our multidimensional self. That being that you see there is need of your love and need of your nourishment, because that is also aspect of you. You will not connect to anybody or anything that is not part of your soul.
Even if they're gray extraterrestrial.
Correct. Even if they're gray or draconian, whatever they call them, right? They're also aspect of yourself. I would travel to that dimension and I would heal my draconian self.
You did that?
Correct.
How did you heal your draconian self?
So it's an energy. It's not physical. It's all energy connections. Okay. If energy does not flow, becomes stagnant, what happens? We're not receiving it, so we become suppressed, and it turns into physical. It becomes an emotion.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So the neurons within the body start to not work properly. The energy is not flowing to them. So we have to start thinking everything like the consciousness, not like our physical, in order to transform things. So as you start to see that, and it's very simple to transform, you can communicate with it just like you would communicate to a child that is hurt. Do not be afraid of it, because it wants you to acknowledge it. And you just acknowledging it, you're actually sending rays of love to it.
That's what
and
it's
what
needing.
what happens is it opens up because it also wants to be free.
That's good. So if we talk about the Pleiadian Syrian relationship, what's their connection with each other? I mean, separate from the human or your aspect of your Pleiadian or Syrian self, what do they have to learn from each other there? Or are they on different levels?
They're always learning.
Like what?
They're learning everything, because for them it's just an experience. So for them it's just an experience to experience a different vibration, and they pick up the consciousness that will allow them to grow, because their focus is on expansion. Okay, and when we talk about expansion, is basically not just you expanding, but it's already there. They're just becoming more aware of it, of what's there.
But what's the specifics of that learning? Like here we're learning about love, friendship, jealousy, anger, whatever.
The physical is learning that.
The physical. What's the soul learning?
The soul is just experience. The soul is an experience, good or bad. It doesn't judge it. It's just an experience.
That's a human thing, or is that experience other dimensional and other extraterrestrial as well? Those, what we're calling human. Is that something they're learning in 3D on other realities, other spaces? Do you know what I'm saying?
Physically?
The human emotion, is that something other 3D beings also deal with? Or is that strictly...
Some have emotion, some don't have emotion. Each one is completely different. Some are completely not even mental. They just exist. There are infinite amounts. So we can tap into any one of them as we're talking to see what they're experiencing, because they're unique in their own way.
Well, you know, the vision I just had was that don't be offended, but you're not even human anymore. It was like the Pleiadian self has taken over your consciousness in a good way, and is like you're now embodying Pleiadian consciousness within a human form. Is that
correct? in a way, so, but it's all within the soul.
Right.
It's still the soul.
But the values and the energies and the information that's coming through, you're not talking human anymore.
I
mean, maybe you are. No, you are human, but
I'm trying to explain it as much as I can in the physical terms, and just allowing it to experience. Which
the level of consciousness, though, is already transcending the human grid that keeps people locked into hate and fear and all that. And so my sense, I'm just making this up as I go along, is that the Pleiadian, if you want to call it that, has already kind of infused itself within your conscious activity.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes. It's there. It's always there. We want to tap into that quality. You can tap into that quality. Any quality you choose to is within your conscious. We don't need to read books. We don't need to study. We just need to be within that. And all that information comes to us. The only reason it doesn't come is because the mind is always thinking, what do I need to do? Don't do nothing. That's when you will receive everything.
Right. So that's the human part. We're talking about the human. But if you can tap into those other extraterrestrial awarenesses, is there something you want to channel through to this dimension that we actually might not even understand?